This is the Church of St. Paul in the Desert.
For those of us who are long-time churchgoer, this line that Jesus said, those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted, right? Read that before. And I was struggling with this one line. I really want to preach about it, and I will. How do we live this out? What does this actually mean in the world that we're in today? I have this wild idea. What if Jesus showed up as one of those presidential candidate debates? Right? And Jesus said, those who exalt themselves, which they are planning to do, yes, will be humble, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. What would they do to Jesus? Throw him out. Indeed, it is really hard to live this thing. How do you even imagine it today? Because winning seems to be everything. We keep hearing it every day almost. Whether we're dealing with international, crisis and local event, winning seems to be everything. And I don't know about you. I get emails from both the Republicans and the Democrats. And I'm one of those people who want to find out what's going on in all the different corners of this arena. And for 6 months now, daily I get email asking me for money to support a certain candidate, right? So I started thinking, well, if I give any of these candidates money, where did that money go? Where would that money go? You can talk back. Advertising. Advertising for what? This candidate, I am number one. I am better. I will sit at the honor place in the next debate. Right? And the other kind of ad is, let's put everybody else down. Because if there's a top, there's going to be bottom, right? So as that says, the other person are terrible, liars, whatever word they use these days, I'm shocked, often. So I said, I'm not going to give money for that. That's just so anti-Jesus. Jesus says those who, exalt themselves will be humble, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. It is so hard. So from today's lesson, I also learned a couple other things. Besides humbling yourself, from Hebrew, we are also asked to be compassionate. Remember those who are in prison as if you are in prison. Remember those who are tortured as if you are part of the person who is being tortured. That's what it means to be compassionate. Compassion comes from two words, common, passion. To be compassionate is to feel and experience what the others feel. Does that make sense? So to be compassionate. And then the third thing is to give generously. That's in the psalm that we sung. That's in Hebrew as well. So humble yourself, be compassionate, and give generously. That's totally anti-election politics, If you humble yourself, you're going to lose. If you're compassionate, you're weak. Okay? If you give generously, you lose. You have less. So how does this work, right? So, this reminded me, as I was working on this sermon, of my first church job interview. Okay, so now I'm about to graduate from seminary, a pretty prestigious one, I thought so anyway. And I'm the second person in my family that get a master's degree, okay? So I went to an Ivy League school for college, so I'm, I'm kind of full of myself, and I was ready to go to the interview, and boast and say, I am the best thing ever that can happen to this ministry. So you get to hire me, right? So I'm ready to be number one. I'm ready to go to sit at the honors, as an honor guest in the international. I deserve it, right? So I got to the place for my interview, and the interview committee was in the room, and this is a very unusual kind of thing. They have a room with glass windows so I can see them. And someone came up and said, we're still finishing our meeting, could you wait here for us to come and get you? So I sat in that room and wait. And then I noticed there was another person who was also waiting. And this person, my impression was that he probably was homeless. And it's clothes are kind of dirty, and he's kind of didn't smell too good. And so he was waiting for something, and I'm waiting, and I kind of look around and say, well, there's nothing to do. And so it's getting nervous. Why don't I have a conversation with this guy? So I started the conversation, found out his name, he found out my name, and then I listened to him. And then I found out very quickly that he was hungry. So I said, well, let me see what I can do. So there's a refrigerator in the corner of this room. So I went to the refrigerator, and I found bread, and I found Coke cuts, and I asked him, would you like the sandwich? I can make you a sandwich. So I made him a sandwich, got ourselves some drinks, and I sat down while he was eating. We continued to have our conversation. Got to know the story. And by the time the interview committee was ready for me, they came up to get me, and I said goodbye to the guy, and I went into the room, and they said, you got the job. That was the interview. So here I was, high and mighty, ready to convince people, and what they did was what? They humbled me. And I am sitting with a homeless person. And what did I do? I can choose to ignore, right? But somehow I kind of passed the test, sorry, because I somehow was able to be compassionate and listen to the person. And I tell you, that experience stayed with me throughout the time I worked with this ministry, because that changes the way I relate to people, the way I make decisions as a leader, the way I teach other people to do ministry. So I become generous in many ways, with money and other things, because I knew this person by being humbled to sit with that person in the lower place. So, humbling has a lot of advantage. When you humble yourself, you sit with people who have less, who don't have privilege and power, and you discover the truth. And the truth will set you free to be generous, to give generously, to do the just things, to do the righteous things. So think about how you can humble yourself in this coming week. Are you considered a powerful person in your family? Or you think you're powerful in your family? How do you humble yourself so you can be compassionate with those who might have less of a voice in your family and become generous? Think about your workplace, those who used to work. How do you humble yourself so you can hear sometimes the voices in your workplace and become generous? How about St. Paul, as in this transition time? If you're in leadership position, how do you humble yourself to listen to someone who just walked in today? I see some of you who just, and be compassionate and listen. How do you interview your new priest? What do you look for? All right, we'll get there. Okay, so there's a lot of advantage to humbling yourself. It's not a losing game, which is what we think. When we do that, you actually gain. So let's go back to the politicians. So So if there's a politician who actually humble herself or himself and be with the lowly people and listen, do you think that candidate's going to win an election? There's still a lot ahead to go. Okay, I'm going to convince you otherwise. I'm going to beg the difference. Not that you're wrong, okay? The way the world is now, that's probably still is, right? So I did some research that at the last midterm election, I looked at the congressional districts election. And there's actually a web page that shows all the most expensive congressional district election. And the top 10 most expensive one shows that the candidate spent over $30 million for a congressional election. So how many districts do we have in California? 40 something, right? 40 times 30 million is how much money? Okay, now then we find out that the ones who spent the most money, sometimes they didn't win. And many of the races were so close that they win by maybe a few thousand votes. So this thing, this district has about 700,000 people that we're part of. Right? So what if we have a politician who decided who have raised $30 million, right? And decided not to spend it on ads that says I am number one and the rest are, no good, liars and whatever, right? No, the politician decided to humble herself or himself and decided to go and listen to the people. And this politician might discover that, boy, there are a lot of people in my district that are struggling with mortgage payment. Some of them are about to lose their home. So, how many mortgage payments can we pay with $30 million? We can pay for a whole year 5,000. I did my math. 5,000 families mortgage for a year. That's more than enough votes. But okay, so you pay off 5,000 families mortgage for a year so that they can recoup and regather their resource and get them back on their feet. Think about that. What if the politician in the listening discover that there are people struggling with health care, so they can't afford to pay for health insurance? So how many health insurance, premium can we pay for with $30 million? We can pay, let's do 5,000 again. 5,000 families insurance for a year. Okay. What if we discover that in our district there is an opioid addiction problem? What if we spend 30 million to develop 100 recovery centers for addiction? How about spending $30 million going to every high school and work with every senior who's about to turn 18 and educate them about what it means to be a good citizen? We have more than money to do that. Or you can give them all $50, everybody. 30 million, 700,000 people. Right? So, I am pretty sure that if a politician do any of the things that I said, that person will win. Okay? I'm waiting for a politician that actually can do that. Okay? None of the presidential candidates come close. Oh, there's one that's kind of, wow, interesting. Around that. Okay, I won't say who. Okay, so humbling yourself, It's not a losing game. You can win, because what did Jesus say? Those who humble themselves will be exalted. Okay. Now, let me say one more thing. Who is doing the humbling? Who is doing the exalting? Right? Jesus said in the passive tense, right? Those who exalt themselves will be humbled. Those who humble themselves will be exalted. Who's doing the humbling? Who is doing the exalting? Ourselves. So the easy answer is like Jesus, right? Jesus said it, or God. Right? But then, where is God now? Where is Jesus now? Come on. Allow you to do this. Everybody do this. Come on. Who's doing the exalting? Who's doing the humbling? You are. You who follow Jesus is the body of Christ. And if all of us from this day on, when we see someone humbling him or herself, you exalt that person. You say, that's a good job. Whether we're talking to our grandkids, talking to our children, talking to our partner, our husband, our wives, our priest. When you see someone humbling himself, compassionate and giving, you say, good job. Come to my table and be at my honor seat. If you consistently do that. Now, humbling someone is a little hard to do, okay, but it can be done. Okay. Now, you can, in an election, you can humble someone with your vote. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about elections. Okay, so if we all do that, because you are the body of Christ, when you see someone who humble himself, you say, good job. When you see someone exalting himself, you need to say something, do something. Invite that person to humble for himself so that we can connect. We can see each other at the same level. And we need to expand this community that does this. We need to expand our body of Christ. Talk to our friends. Invite your friends to be part of this community and spread it through social media. And say, when you see humbling, exalt. And maybe we can together move closer to realizing